This is Nazim Faour from Waves platform, and today I am going to show you a step-by-step tutorial for how to create 2 of 3 multi-signature example using non-Turing complete Wave smart contracts. But at the beginning I want to explain to you more about our new feature which is smart accounts. So Waves has been built on top of an account-based model, the same as in Ethereum as in XT. The main difference here, guys, between the smart account and normal account, that the normal account can only sign transactions before sending them to the blockchain. But the main idea of smart account is the following. So before the transaction is submitted for inclusion in the next block, this account check if the transaction meets certain requirements, which is defined in a script. So this script is attached to the account, so the account can validate every transaction before conforming it. The main requirement for using Wave smart accounts is that they can be run for the price of normal transaction with a predefined fee, but without any additional gas limit. You can read more about Wave smart contracts in our documentation. So here we can just go to docs.wavesplatform.com. Yeah, and just easily in the search you can put smart contracts. Yeah, you can take a look and read more about our smart contracts, benefits of using our smart contract. You can read about smart accounts, smart assets as well. And also you can find Waves Java library here in our documentation, how to set up your project, how to include the dependency on Maven, and so on. So our use case here will be so suppose that there are 3 people in the team and they hold common funds for corporate purposes. So it's convenient for the team to make a decision about the allocation of common funds according to the majority decision. And here they use a multi-signature account to do this. So they create an account and do set script transaction with the multi-signature account. Now we can go further and see how to implement our use case. We will use the new IDE.waveplatform.com. So here, let's take a look for Waves IDE. You can, on the main page, you can read about Wave smart contracts. By clicking the new button, you have 2 choices. You can create empty contract, or you can use one of our sample examples like multi-signature and notary. So here in our case we will create an empty contract. So now what we want to do is to create a multi-signature example. So one keyword of Wave smart contract is the keyword let, which is used to define a variable. So we start with let. So at the beginning we will need to define the Alice public key, Bob, and Cooper, because we have 2 of 3 multi-signature. So we can start with Alice. We will use base 58 for encryption to encrypt the data. Here, like, I have the public key of Alice. We can just copy it and paste it here. Yeah, and the same for Bob. So also base 58, and let's take public key. And also the third one for Cooper. Okay, let's take also Cooper public key. So here now we in these 3 lines we defined 3 public keys for Alice, Bob, and Cooper. We used here base 58 to encode the binary data. Now let's also we need to put some conditions for this for signing the transaction. So let's say that we have okay, Alice signed, and let's put, so here in Waves platform we have built-in function which called sigverify. We use sigverify to validate the signature for bytes and public key. So here, okay, we need to get the transaction body bytes, so we can just easily get the body bytes for that. Yeah, so tx here is the current transaction which we want to check and return for it true or false. So if we return false, the transaction will be rejected and not included in the blockchain. The signature here, we will set a proof for the transaction. It's the index 0, and the ls public key. Yeah, we will do the same for Bob. So also we will use sigverify and transaction dot body bytes. We got the bytes of this transaction. The signature here in this case will be proofs 1, yeah, and the public key of Bob, and also the same for Cooper. Also we will need to verify the signature. We will get the transaction body bytes and transaction dot proofs 2 and the public key of Cooper. Yeah, so of course in each, like if it's true we return 1, else we return 0. Okay, so now here users gather 3 public keys in proofs 0 and proofs 1 and proofs 2. The account here is funded by the team members, and after that, when 2 of 3 team members decide to spend money, they provide their signatures in a single transaction. So the smart account script will be used by implementing sigverify function, which will validate this signature with the proofs. And if 2 of 3 are valid, then the transaction is valid as well. Else the transaction doesn't pass to our blockchain. So here, okay, we will see, we will need that Alice signed Bob also, plus Cooper, yeah, it should be equal or more to 2, like to be sure that 2 of 3 are valid. Okay, so here we wrote the example on Waves IDE for the multi-signature example, and as well here you can click the binary and get the base 64 or base 58, the one which you want to use. So this script represents the code that we wrote. So you can easily copy this script and pass it to your code. Okay. So now let's implement the example using Waves Java library. And let's start. I use here IntelliJ IDEA. You are free to use any software that you like to develop Java on it. So here, before writing the example, you need to add depends. If you are using Maven, you need to add Waves Java library as dependency. Okay, in the POM XML file, you can add it here as a dependency, or you can just get the jar file and add it to your project. From here, you can the project structure. You can add the dependency here. I added the Waves G jar. You can add, if you are using Maven, you can just easily also include it in the POM XML file and add it as a dependency, as we saw in our documentation or in our GitHub link for WavesG. You can take the dependency code from there and add it here. So we have several steps to go through this example using Java. So at the beginning, what we need here, if you see these 3 lines, it's already I wrote it already because we need to create something called seed, which is used, like the seed in Waves is 15. It contains 15 words, which will help you to generate your account, to create your account. So we will need, in our case of multi-signature examples, we will need 3 different accounts. So here I passed 3 different seeds for Alice, for Bob, and for Cooper as well. Okay, and what we will need now is to get, why we create the seeds, to get the private keys from the seed. So we can just get the private key from the seed by using private key account. Okay, for Alice, let's say. So here, like, okay, private key account, and as you see, you can get it. You can get the private key from seed, from a private. If you have the private key, you can get from a private key. So in our case, we will get it from seed. Yeah. So here we will need to add the seed, nonce, and schema. Okay, 3 parameters. So here we will need to add Alice seed and nonce 0 and the account. Here, like, we will use the testnet, so you can get account.testnet, and we will do the same also for Bob. From seed also, here we will use Bob seed. Yeah, 0, and also the account from the testnet. Now we want also to get the private key for Cooper. Also from seed, Cooper seed, and 0, and also account on testnet. Okay, so here we created the 3 private keys for Alice, Bob, and Cooper. Now what the second step, we need to get the addresses of Alice, Bob, and Cooper. So just easily you can, okay, dots, and you have here get address function, and the same for Bob. And also Cooper address. Okay, so now here we got the addresses now. So the third step now is we need to get the public keys, yeah, encoded with base 58 in order to know the public keys to pass it for the script that we create on IDE. Yeah, so we can easily we can, like, you can print it. So let's say Alice public key, yeah, and we can use base 58 dot encode, and here we will pass Alice dot get public key. Okay, and the same we will do for, let's take also public key, also base 58 dot encoded, and bob dot get public key. Great, so now we get also the public keys encoded with base 58. So now the next step, we need to create a node, yeah, on the testnet. So simply you can use the node here. Okay, so by default, if you don't pass here the website, so it's testnode1.wavesnodes.com. In our case, in my case, I used testnode2.waves. Okay, so now we created the node, yeah, on the testnet. So now what we need to do is to add the smart contract script and compile this script. So just for to be more easy, this is the same code what we have written here, yeah, and we will just like create string, yeah, script, and pass it here, and now we need to compile the script, of course. So let's compile the script. Also we have here compile script, and we pass the script. After compiling the script, we can print the bytecode that we got. Okay, actually here there is two ways to do that. You can write the pass the script here as a string and compile it, print it, or you can just easily copy the script from here, yeah, and you can pass it here to you can pass it for the like we have make script transaction, yes, you can pass it there. So like here we have transaction. Okay, let's call it script transaction. So here in our library we have transaction, and now you can make script transaction, okay, which has four parameters. So here in our case, okay, we'll use Cooper to sign it, and here you can pass the byte code, yeah, the script that we have. In this case, you can just easily copy from Waves IDE the base 64 script and just paste it here without doing all this stuff if you want, or this is also another way. I prefer this way, it feels more comfortable for me. Okay, and the account on testnet, yeah. What else? The fees, like 40,000 will be more than enough for that. Okay, and after that, after creating this, what you will need to do, so here we added the smart contract script, we compile it, yeah, we set the script transaction. Now we need to send it to the node, yeah, so node dot send, and you pass the transaction here. Okay, so now we just make the script on the transaction signed by Cooper. Now the next step, we need to transfer, let's say, some amount of waves or any other currency to Bob address, let's say. Okay, so we want to create a transaction. So let's say, okay, transaction 1, transaction, and here we have something called make transfer. Yeah, here it is. So on make transfer, okay, Cooper want to send to Bob, we can get Bob address and 1 Satoshi, the amount, and okay, now we need to specify the asset, which is waves, yeah, and the fee, let's say, okay, waves also, and some attachment, let's say sending currency. So now we are making a transfer. So regarding our example, the multi-signature, so 2 of 3 should sign this transaction. So let's sign the transaction by, okay, Alice signature, and here we have sign, and we can sign the transaction, and we will need also and we will also sign it from Bob. Now, after we sign the transaction from 2 of 3 users, we need also to set proofs for 2 of 3 users on the transfer transaction that we are making. So let's also set proofs. You can just here use set proof, yeah, and 0, and use Alice signature, and also we want to set a proof for Bob as well. So now we set the proofs. Now we need to broadcast the transaction to the network. So let's, okay, transaction ID node.send, and we will send the transaction which we created to make the transfer. And okay, for just easy to, we can get to print the addresses also, just to check later that transaction was there in the blockchain. We can put Alice address, print Alice address, and we can also print Bob. And Cooper. Great. So let's review it once again. We create seeds for all of them, for the 3. We create private keys. We get the addresses later. Yeah. Then we printed the public key for Alice and Bob to use it in our script. We create a node in test node 2 wavesplatform.com. Yeah, we put the script here, we compile it, we print it, the bytecode, then we made the set make script transaction, yeah, for Cooper, and we send it to the node. Then we made the transfer and sign it by Alice and Bob, set proofs for Alice and Bob because it's 2 of 3, and then send it to the node, and finally just copy the addresses for ourselves later to check. So I have done this example before, so, and I send the script to the node. So here in our case we will just comment this too, okay, and now let's run the code and see what will happen. Okay, we have some errors. Okay, in the name of the website it seems that we made a mistake. Let's check again. HTTPS, yeah, test node 2. Okay, it's not Waves platform, it's, sorry, it Waves nodes. Let's try again. And here it is, yeah. So here Alice public key, Bob public key printed. The script in base 64, which is actually this script. If you check here, it's the same. What is here, yeah. So in the case, if you don't need to write the script again, you can just copy it and you can just pass it here, okay, just easily without writing this, okay. So, and after that, I think we just forget to print the transaction ID, yeah. I think we forget, yes. So, okay, let's just print the transaction ID to check it later. I just want to show you how it's included in the blockchain. So let's print it. Yeah. So now we printed the transaction ID. So this is the transaction ID of which we transferred. So let's just copy it, okay? So now we have multiple ways to check if it's included in the blockchain or no. First of all, I want to show you on our terminal. So here you just need to write it, okay. So here, okay, and the website is testnode2.wavesnodes.com, and then transactions, yeah, and the info of the transaction that you want, and here you pass the ID of the transaction that we already got it. So let's see. So yeah, it's here, it's type 4, the ID of the transaction, sender, Scuba, fees, timestamp, and as you see here we have two proofs. Yeah, this is the first proof and this is the second proof that we put in our script, okay. And yeah, so now we checked it here. We can also go and check it on the website testnode2.wavesnodes.com, our IBI, and you can see here in the transaction, yeah, and get transaction by ID. We can pass the ID here, write it out, and that's it, yeah. So this is the transaction that we transferred, this is the proofs, and that's really cool. That's really cool, guys. So this is like the two ways where you can check the transfer that we made, okay. And yeah, so let's check if we break some rules on our code. Like, okay, we need two of them to sign, yeah, at least. So let's just not set a proof for not sign it by Bob, let's say, okay. Just we will sign it by Alice. So logically it should not work. Let's try if it will work or not. So logically by our script here now it should give an error and it should not work because it needs at least 2. You see? Now we got error. It say transaction not allowed by script. Yes, because in our script we said we need at least 2 to sign it, and here in our code we sign it just by Alice, so it didn't pass to the blockchain. So thanks for watching the video. I hope you got useful information from this video, and see you in next tutorials, and goodbye guys.